welcome to the MACO TAC Session. I'm Hershey, and today we'll talk about Alpha Strike build and something about vaporized builds. So, Lord, give it away.
Right, well, Alpha Strike build is primarily used by escorts and some warbirds. It's essentially designed to do as much damage as possible, but it's designed to do it more of a time, as opposed to things like vaporizers. It's based more on spike damage, but it's still overtime compared to others. The main aim of it is really to, as I do, as much damage as possible, so what you want to be doing is building up as many buffs as you can for a single run. And you want things like a tactical team, cannon rapid fire, because the main weapon for something like this is dual heavy cannons. You can use dual cannons, but it's best to go with the heavies because they're optimized for damage better.
Please don't fire.
Yeah, I'm trying to add him as a friend.
I was fired on first.
Yeah, I'm trying to add him as a friend.
Damn it!
Okay, stop
Honestly,
it.
Zell, it's not good.
Okay, let's move on. It'll be quick,
As I was
don't
saying,
worry.
yeah, with the cannons, the best ability to use that is rapid fire, obviously. You want to be stacking buffs such as attack pattern alpha, because that's standard with tactical captains. You want to be using attack pattern omega, because that's a damage buff, and flight speed buff, because that's very useful for trying to keep up with your opponent, especially in a dogfight.
What do you think about beta with the
Beta?
For the Alpha Strike,
resistance?
no.
So it's
Beta,
good just to do damage instead of lowering their resistance?
Beta and Delta, that's, I suppose, down to preference. The Delta buffs you and debuffs your opponent, whereas the Beta is a complete debuff. So it's entirely up to you if you think you'll be able to kill the target quick enough, in which case you can go with Delta, because then you'll still have a buff to target the next opponent. And whereas if it's a big target, say a tank, then you want to be going with something like Beta, because you want to be having as big a debuff as possible. So that's mainly down to preference and how well you think you can kill your target, and depending on what the target is. Most escorts will only have room for one of them, so you have to choose wisely. You
And
can also...
it would be best to choose Omega if you're a pure escort. If you can.
Most escorts generally, if you go with a high-end escort, say the Defiant or the Tavaro, then you will have the option for, you'll be able to put in Omega, at least one copy of it, and a Beta or a Delta.
Yeah, so if you have, if you can put Omega, second power should be Delta.
Well,
Again, that's down to preference.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little weird. The build Shanis gave me is 2 attack pattern Omegas and an attack pattern Alpha.
Attack pattern alpha, that
Is
won't be
default
listed on
class.
this.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
default attack pattern, so that's
so
not
that
relevant to the buff layout.
No, that won't be listed because that's a standard ability with all tactical captains. They get it anyway.
Yeah, but he didn't say
It can't-
anything. What about
it-
Delta?
Well, again,
Alpha give me thirst.
Again, Beta or Delta, that's down to preference on how well you think you can kill your target.
Yes.
I prefer Beta because I generally go for the bigger targets and try to bring them down so I can assist the team.
So you're saying beta is good for like cruisers?
Yes, Beta is good for taking down a tank, and Delta is good if you're picking off smaller targets, because it's a buff to you, which means that the debuff, while it will have disappeared with the target you were on, you will still have the buff for going against another target.
Okay.
And then you also have other abilities such as Fire on My Mark, which is a debuff to your opponent. And if you've got someone, say you're in a dogfight with a Tavaro or a Mogai, something like that, something that can cloak or bird of prey, then that's very good because it gets rid of their stealth sight. Because if you try and cloak and then do a hit and run at them, then they won't be able to see you as well.
And that's for firing my mark.
Yes. You'll also one ability you can use. You won't be able to use it straight away. It requires a low health. Is go down fighting. That's a big damage buff when you're low health. And if you're going for multiple targets, another ability you can use is tactical initiative. I generally tend to have that on a keybind because it's active. Then it's active as soon as it's available, because it brings down all your debuffs and your buff abilities, brings the cooldown on them, which is very useful.
What was the name of that?
Tactical initiative. It's another innate
fair enough.
ability.
It's the same as the ground version.
And it's innate to tactical captains as well. You can build a decent alpha striker on other captains, engineers, or science, depending on the ship and the layout. But it's a lot easier and a lot better with a tactical captain. So it's possible, but again, go for tacticals. You when you go for an alpha strike, you also want to be not only stacking your buffs for damage, but you want to be stacking your healing buffs as well.
Stop firing.
Spud, stop it.
Sorry.
Everyone separate, just to avoid this.
11 kilometers.
Yep, this far away at least.
Yeah,
Disengage.
fucking run away.
Okay,
You select me as your target.
okay, let's move on, please.
Right. Again, you want to be preparing your healing abilities as well, because during an alpha strike, especially if you're a cloaker, as soon as you decloak, you'll be targeted instantly. When people recognize you have very good damage, then they'll want to kill you because you're a risk. So you want to be preparing your abilities. You don't want to use them straight away. I recommend as soon as you're targeted, or as soon as you're fired upon, that you go for something like emergency power to shields, because that's not only a shield heal, but also a shield buff. So that means that you'll be
User joined your channel.
receiving less damage to begin with.
Okay.
Whoever's just joined, your microphone is open.
Hello, I know.
Would you care to turn it off, please? Please push the talk.
So we've both got him.
Oh,
Okay,
poor
move on.
guy. Anyway, moving on.
Right, that's the basics of it. There are other abilities you can use if you have them available. One of them is Tracked Beam. That's a very useful ability if you're trying to keep your opponent where they are. Best using that on escorts. Tanks normally can't get out of the way as well, so don't need to worry about that unless it's one that debuffs, which is say the assimilated Tracked Beam. The regular Tracked Beam does do kinetic damage, so you can use it. But you want to be using it on the more nimble opponents, just so they can't get away.
Okay, and what doffs do you recommend?
Doffs, I don't have as much experience with them. There are some ones that you can go for generally. There are one like the con officer that can reduce the tactical team, reduce the recharge time for it.
Yeah, it's Zemop General. He's on
There
the
are quite a
exchange.
few of them.
Yeah,
What was his name again? Or
He
division?
reduces recharge time for attack pattern Beta, Delta, and Omega.
There's that one as well.
What's
the
he
one I
under?
was talking-
Tactical?
Yes.
Yeah, beyond tactical. But the one I was talking about is one that reduces tactical team. There are ones that reduce the tactical abilities, the attack patterns, but the one I was talking about, it's reduce the tactical team and the buff. There are also ones that I believe decrease the reduce the recharge time of cannon rapid fire, which is a very useful one, but it's quite expensive in its very rare form.
Okay.
Other ones.
Anything else?
There's a security doff. His Jemadar Adapticon, which just gives you extra threat generation with attack pattern Delta.
You don't really want threat generation when you're tactical. You don't want to draw attention to yourself because then you'll be dead.
Yeah, I thought
You
you
can
just
use-
for a second.
You can use it, but again, that's if you're tanky enough in an escort, which is possible. then go for it. But again, you don't want to be drawing that much attention to yourself, otherwise you'll be dead. Although in PvP, threat generation isn't normally a concern, so you can use it. There are others. I personally have some. I don't have any dots on this character, but I have ones that increase my singularity charge rate. This is very good for the Romulans because it will allow you to use your abilities a lot sooner. Say the singularity jump, which can be used to escape, the overcharge, which is essentially another rapid fire. There are many buffs that can increase unique abilities to the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans. So you need to look out for them. I sadly don't know the specifics of them right now.
Okay.
What do you think about M.A.C.O?
I can't remember what he does. Let me just check.
He turns hazard emitters into an area effect.
Ah, yes.
Has
So
a chance
that's
to
very,
within
very
3 kilometers.
Yes, if you're very close to your team, that's a very good ability to have.
Okay, any more questions about the Alpha Strike build?
Do we want to see it in action?
Okay, so Lord demonstrates the strike build on
Make sure it's a
On-
moving ship too, or
on
you get
Maquis.
skewed results.
Move, sir, move.
Yes, an active target is generally what you'll be facing, so.
Yeah.
That's why you want to. Another reason why you want to be choosing escorts as fast as possible if you can. Well, you need to be finding the right balance between speed and defense. That's entirely down to preference. But you want something that's definitely fast, so you can keep up with other ships, other escorts in a dogfight. Because if you can't bring your cannons to bear, then it's useless.
Okay, demonstrate please. On, sirs. And
we are.
there you go.
Wow.
You notice as a Romulan, I decloaked very close to him. I didn't give him a chance to get away because he couldn't see me in time. I have currently set up a keybind that will activate my tactical fleet, which is an innate ability that increases damage, targeting systems, and maneuvers. It also activates the tactical team, cannon rapid fire, and very close to my left hand I have the attack pattern ability, so I can debuff him immediately. And you also want to have your evasive maneuvers ready to activate as well, because if you've got a very fast opponent, you want to keep up with them. If you're going up against another striker or another vapor, then you want to get rid of them as soon as possible. They're a very high risk target, so you want to keep up with them.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Stop firing. Any more questions regarding Alpha Strike build? Okay, let's move on to the Vape. Can you, Lord, say something about that shortly?
The Vape build, or Vaporizer, is a very advanced build to use. It's essentially designed to do a lot of damage. It's pretty much the damage of an Alpha Striker and potentially more in about 5 seconds. It's designed to eliminate the opponent and then run away. This is mainly used on cloakers such as Birds of Prey and Tavaros, and occasionally a Mogai, but the Tavaro is more nimble, so it's better. And yeah, it's designed to kill anything within about 5 to 10 seconds. It generally uses things like a dual beam bank and beam overload to eliminate the shields facing straight away. Then it has cannons.
Sorry, no, I just let you know that is the build I'm using. Dual beam banks with heavy cannons and turrets.
That's the beginning of one, yes, but it won't be a complete vaporizer because it's a very advanced build. It's even an experienced player can have trouble using it correctly. It takes a long time to get used to.
Yeah, regarding DOFs, those for beam overload, the most you can, I think it's 3. put 3 of them in your active roster. That will extremely help you with dual beam bang and melting enemy shields.
What do they
Yeah,
do?
Huh?
What are those
damage
drops do?
output.
They increase damage or
Increase
reduce
damage
the
and they stack one.
drain?
They beam overload has a chance to ignore 35% of the target's shields for 4 seconds, and they also stack, so they are quite useful, especially for the Vape build.
Yes, currently the vaporizer is built on a bug, but even without the bug, it's still a very good build to have. There is very little you can do to counter it. Even the toughest tank is going to have a very hard time surviving, even if they're fully buffed. It's designed to unleash a torrent of damage in about 5 seconds, so
You
it's
get
very
the hell
difficult
out
to
to
counter.
dodge.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
the time you realize you're under attack by a vapor, you're dead.
Mm.
So it's very difficult to counter. And I say, even if you're in a tank and fully buffed, then you're gonna have a hard time surviving it. I think the only ship that can do this are maybe the Galaxy Dreadnought and the Odyssey, if they're built right.
What about
To
the
survive it
side?
or actually do it?
So
Survive.
to survive it, only well, you can use a vaporizer in any escort, but it's best in one that can cloak, say, a Beta Prey or a Tavaro. I've seen it done in Geometar attack ships, and I believe I've even seen it in Prometheus, but that was not quite as powerful.
What about something like a scimitar with a lot of RCS consoles?
Well, you don't want to be using a lot of RCS consoles, you
Yeah.
still want to be
Well,
survivable.
but a few.
But it can use 1 or 2 because it's quite a slow ship. But you can use a vaporizer in that. It's got 5 forward weapons, so that's a very good one to have. The Avenger, possible, but not as much so as the Scimitar, because it can't cloak.
What about on the clown side? Which could survive vapor build there?
The only one I would probably suggest is the M.A.C.O. It's the highest hull of the Klingon ships and the most durable, so that's the closest one that could do it, although I'm not entirely sure of that. I haven't seen it in action.
Unfortunately, we don't have a Vape build here to demonstrate, so is there any more
Well,
questions?
Yeah, well, obviously you've got your big builds and your alpha structs. Well, ships that can't cloak can use a mixture of cannons and torpedoes.
Uh,
That
the,
can still do a lot of damage. The
Yeah.
primary weapon used in an Alpha Strike is dual heavy cannons, but you can use others if you are comfortable with
I
them.
mean, I've got a kind of sneaky, almost one-shot kill maneuver I use in my Golf, which obviously doesn't cloak, and it's got the Elachi set on it, so the cannon, the torpedo, and the console.
Yeah, the thing with what you're saying, Zal, is you're going to have to put extra points into torpedoes.
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't particularly
To
use the
make them-
torpedo as a main weapon. It's there for the set bonus.
Yeah, but
Sirs.
to make it more powerful.
So
What
you
trick?
can do that, but the damage increase from the projectile weapon skill isn't as beneficial. If you build it right and you know how to use it, you can kill with pretty much anything.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
primary
That's
ones
what I
that
was
are
saying.
used, the primary ones that are used are Alpha Strikers, and as you were saying, Zal, you can use things like torpedoes if they're the right kind and if used right. The primary weapon, as I say, is dual heavy cannons, but others can be used, like dual
May
beam
I
bangs.
demonstrate my technique on Marquis?
Yep.
Uh,
One moment
I believe your time.
until
Go
I
ahead.
find you. One moment.
Hold on, I will fire on you if that's alright to show you what I can do.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
we'd be
go,
surprised
go,
if you didn't.
go.
Start moving.
Start moving.
Too slow. Didn't quite work out.
What were you trying to catch him in that explosion?
Oh, I was gonna use my what's it on him?
Who activated Nimbus Pirates?
Oh fuck,
Mate.
sirs.
Sirs.
Do you really think I'm going to
Yes.
fight fair
It's
and...
a bit unfucking fair.
Yeah,
Well, they-
Well, you're attacking me?
Says they start attacking everyone else, so yeah, that kind of
Yeah,
crap,
that
I
wasn't
forgot.
disrupts the
fair.
fight.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Nimbus.
But
Yeah, I
sir,
forgot about that.
sirs, that was sneaking. So
Thank you.
Yes, that's another thing that you can use because it comes with a healer and what is it? A healer, a debuff, and a striker. So very useful thing to have if you can get it.
Okay,
I'll call off. Calling
okay,
off.
guys, it's okay. So I was just wanted to say, if you don't want to use torpedoes, use a hybrid dual beam banks and dual heavy cannons. That way you don't need to spend points on the torpedo specialization and which is it? And projectile weapon. So you have a bunch of points from there that you can use on any other system.
Did you
Speaking
say
of
the
which,
specialization skills in the Admiral
Yes.
tier?
Yes. Speaking of which, those skills.
Yeah.
You can use them. I find that the amount you get out of it is about 2% if you use all 9 points.
It's not
So
it's not worth it to use them at all.
yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
with
that's
the,
what I thought.
especially with the
If
new
you're
especially with the new trade. This is really negligible and you use too much points on them which you can use on any other system.
That's
So
another point, because while you can deal damage in an escort, if you can't survive long enough, then it's useless. Which is why you need to, once you've got enough into damage, you need to put as much as you can into surviving. My Tavaro is a lot tankier than people expect it
so-
to be, because I've got as much as I need in damage.
So-
Everything else is into
So
survival.
when you watch this video after, I've just shown my skill set here. So you'll just see a hybrid build and the point they are spent. There's none of them in energy weapon specialization or projectile weapon specialization because they are frankly useless.
Not useless, just it's...
Useless in,
so-
in regarding to spending any other point in any other system, which is not Admiral tier.
Quick question, not about this. Is anybody else getting server not responding?
No.
No.
I'm saying.
Nope.
Might just be...
Anything? Any more questions?
So, are you using any fleet tactical consoles? Because I would certainly boost them. Well, if you can, you know,
But no,
cover
but
up
this
with-
is a completely unfleeted build apart from the shields and deflector.
Well, if you were to get the
I
Spire
know,
attack
sirs.
console,
I'm just. I know, sirs. I know.
Okay.
I use
Any
them
more?
on my other tunes.
Any more questions
can-
about the builds?
no.
Stop firing. Anything?
Okay,
It's
that
time-
was a cheap shot.
It's time to ask
Shut.
now. No.
Hold on, sorry. I was what was it? Server not responding.
Okay.
Care.
Okay, guys. So this concludes this tactical session. After this, we'll get in a proper match. See you next time.